good entertainment.
Well, they were hoping to do some testing between Zolder a month ago and here in Portugal. Haven't heard any outcome of those tests, if they did do so, and if they did make some ground, because as the season progresses, so does the development of all these cars in this GT1 field. They don't just stop at the point where they entered round 1 in Abu Dhabi.
No, that's right. There's always moving forwards. The number 10 Belgian racing car just coming out onto the circuit, the car of Martin Matzke and Antoine Leclerc, but already out there is the Aston Martin of the young driver team of Darren Turner and Stefan Mucker, and it's Stefan at the wheel in this first part of qualifying. Stefan Mucker, who racing under a suspension after that incident at the start of the Zolder Championship race, the qualifying race rather, where he and the Lamborghini collided into the first corner.
Never ever got to see the critical part of the corner because the camera looking up from the turn 1 to the start-finish line, and then the camera from turn 2, I think it was, looking to the exit of turn 1. But we never actually got that critical moment, but it was adjudged Stefan Mucker to be responsible for the incident. He was attempting to go around the outside of the Pastorelli Schweiger Lamborghini, and collision occurred. Taking your chances around the outside, well, it can work for you, but you've got to be aware that the car inside you is going to sweep out to the exit of the corner. You have to take that into account.
Yeah, actually the Lamborghini driver was also put on suspension, or a suspended penalty I should say, not on suspension but a suspended penalty, so they both got their wrist slapped, but both will be racing, and no problems there. There you can see that bit of cloud in the background that's sort of scudding over us, hopefully fairly quickly without depositing its contents. There is the Max Nielsen Lamborghini. Now, Nielsen and Janak have struggled, it has to be said, to get to terms with this car quite as quickly as Wendlinger has. So we'll have to see if they make it through this first part of qualifying. They qualified 18th and last at both previous events, so they need to find some time. Meanwhile, this is the other Aston Martin of Thomas Enger and Alex Muller, and Thomas Enger at the wheel in this first part of qualifying. Yeah,
and you can look at Thomas Enger, the body language of that Aston Martin. Again, suspect on fairly fresh rubber, but certainly pushing hard almost from the very first moment. Currently we're seeing that it's the well, it was the Wendlinger, it's not now. It's we've got the Clivia Piccioni, in fact. Well, we don't even have a flying lap from anybody, in fairness, right. They've just gone out and gone straight back into the pits as we look at one of the Nissans doing a strange exit out of turn 4. A recovery there, I think. So a little bit of a mishap, was it, for Jamie Campbell-Walter? It is Stefan Mucker, by the way, who's got the fastest sector time in Sector 1, so he is on a hot lap. Now there's the number 38 Lamborghini. Again, it was fast in practice yesterday, but we always know it qualifies well. It needs to race well here this weekend and actually score some points. Teammates are leading the championship. And it's the two Aston Martins that are currently the quickest two cars on track. It's Thomas Enger in number 7, Stefan Mucker in number 8, and there we see the purple indicating fastest second sector time for the Enger car. Mucker has gone quickest now. He's eclipsed Enger in Sector 2 and has gone quickest in Sector 3. So the Aston Martins maybe have kept their powder dry so far this weekend, but looking pretty rapid, and we're going to see some times being set. Thomas Enger about to cross the line. Let's see what the lap time is for him. It's a 1:44.047. Well, we'll expect to see lap times a fair bit quicker than that by the end of the session, I think. Absolutely, and we saw a 1:41.7, I think the time was 41.763. Stefan Mucker does a 1:42.9, so that's a bit quicker. Yes, that's nearer to where we would imagine these cars to be. So on board with Stefan Mucker coming out of turn 1 into 3. We don't have turn 2 because although it is there, it isn't counted as a lap. It's part of the circuit layout. It's not used in this particular configuration. He's working pretty hard at the wheel there too. Now what's been going on here with lock up into turn 14? Mark VDS Ford. That's Jan Claret, whose first time in a Ford. And he runs off the track just to compound the situation. Yep. That's the lock-up on the inside wheel going into turn 14, and then Nissan. Now that's a replay of what we saw a moment or two ago. Yeah, Jamie Campbell-Walter just recovering from his earlier spin. Strange place because it's not a big corner turn 4. I mean, all you've got to do is hug the curb and get around the corner. Up the hill, out of turn 9, then the dip, the dive down into the big compression, then up the hill, up turn 10, and then where's turn 11? Well, you can't see it from the driver's seat. There it is, and then you've got turn 12 buried, and it's the track is easy to run wide on, too early on the exit out of turn 12. So, oh, look at that, the number 38 car locking a left frontal. This is a big, hard charging lap here, there's no doubt about it.
in the number 38 car, Marcus Winkelhock in this car at the moment. This is the championship leading car that he shares with Mark Basseng, and they took that win last time out at Zolder, and Winkelhock really throwing everything at it at the moment, John.
Yeah, I mean, the car looks nervous. It doesn't look quite as stable as we've become accustomed to seeing these two Alenco Lamborghinis, but he's hard on it, coming out of the fine turn 16, up across start finish line, and
it's a one, yeah, not a particularly quick lap, actually, is it?
It might have been his beginning of an out lap.
1:45.0, and that puts him down in 6th place at the moment. So, keep an eye on what's going on. Stefan Mucker is fastest currently in this car, the number 8 Aston on a 1:42.9. Take another little look at is this the Lamborghini as it was going up there? Lovely flame out.
Yeah, and a big lock-up. Yeah, that's part of where the time went. The car looked to me to be slightly nervous, not as composed as we've seen it in the first 2 rounds, but that's maybe because Marcus Winkelhock is really driving it like a single-seater. He's just wringing the car's neck at every opportunity. All
right, back with Jamie Campbell-Walter as he comes down to the first part of the lap. Let's see if he keeps it tidy this time. Yeah, much neater than that previous attempt. Currently he is second, just been pushed back to third by Lucas Luhr. So Lucas Luhr's gone second. We've got Aston, Nissan, that's the order at the moment, and all very, very close in terms of times as we concentrate here on Campbell-Walter.
And I think everybody in the pit lane also should be keeping an eye skywards, because at any time we could have another one of those little sort of spring showers that we had briefly at the end of GT3 qualifying.
Lights ablaze with Jamie Campbell-Walter as he climbs back up the hill now, down towards the kink at turn 10, taken pretty much flat out in just about anything, and then that section that we were talking about, up over the rise, then onto the brakes, trying to brake at the top of the rise, and it's a deep turn in for the second part here, through turn 12, try and get back over to the right. A good personal best sector in the middle sector there. Is this going to be enough to improve his time, though? He's 5th at the moment.
Sister car, the Brazilian version with Enrique Bonoldi. It's now 3rd place with Lucas Luhr ahead, but still Stefan Mucker in the Aston Martin's got an advantage of, what is it, about a 1/10 of a second.
Less than a 10th, yeah, it's a few hundredths of a second. It's that close between the Aston leading and the Nissan second quickest. This is Jamie Campbell-Walter, currently 5th. Is he going to get back up there with some of his other Nissan teammates? Is he going to match the Aston Martin that has set the pace so far, about to cross the line? And Jamie doesn't go any quicker, really. It's a slightly quicker time, but it keeps him 5th. It's a 1:43.1. So we've got Aston on top with Stefan Mucker, then 4 Nissans, all 4 Nissans are next up, and separated, all 4 of them, by less than 2/10 of a second. Wendlinger is then 6th, Winkelhock 7th, Thomas Enger is 8th, Jan Claret in the Ford is 9th, and Matteo Bobbi, having his first appearance in a Corvette, currently 10th. So looking here at the number 41 Ford, that is Jan Claret.
Yes, and again, see, look how early he's on the brakes. I mean, really, just coming out of turn 3 and he's already on the brakes for turn 4. That's just simply lack of familiarity with the Ford GT, but also not wanting to drop it too early. There's the problem. Up at turn 10, you just see how easy it was for the second of the Ford GTs. Ran too wide, too early on the entrance and the exit of that difficult approach, turn 11.
Carl Wendlinger in the number 5 Lamborghini Murcielago here, currently sitting 6th and second best of all the non-Nissans, if you like. So Wendlinger on board with him here. Let's listen up. Big V12 engine, of course, mounted behind the driver. He's actually coming into the pits on this one.
Well, that's Sod's Law for you. The minute you want to hear a V12 chiming away, and it goes back into the pits as we go back to the Corvette.
Yeah, Mike Hazelmans hasn't done a representative time just yet, but he's on a quick, or on a trying lap. You can see he's got a personal best in the first sector, 33.3, but that's about a second down, the best we've seen in the first sector so far.
Interesting that this Corvette have opted to go with Mike Hazelmans, who's the established Corvette driver, really, I think, of all time, certainly in European racing, and younger, maybe more ambitious Nicky Kapsberg, who has been stunning, I think, in this car in the 2 occasions, or the 2 events that we've seen him.
Yeah, that's right. Nicky will presumably take over in the second of qualifying if they get that far. This lap would put him in the top 10, I think, just about, if he stays on target as he is. Let's just watch him through the last corner.
No, do you think it will or it won't, Ben?
Let's see. Let's find out. Let's see what he does. Mike Hazelmans, as you say, so experienced and knows exactly what to do to get the best out of the car, but is it enough? Let's just see what it is across the line. Currently 15th, he goes 11th, so no, didn't make the top 10, but he would be safe there if it stays like that. I think we'll see a few improvements though in the remaining 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, his previous lap was at 1:54, so basically little more than a sighting lap for the a bit of rain, yes, indeed, just picking it up on the camera lens. That's what I was mentioning. Just keep an eye above 4 spots of rain. May not rain down the pit lane. It could be raining around the back. Lamborghini in trouble.
That is
out of the pit lane too.
Schwager Pastorelli car. I cannot, these guys, I cannot believe their luck at the moment. They are the ones who've been fastest in all the qualifying sessions and haven't finished a race lap, and now they can't even get out of the pits.
Well, clearly there's a mechanical problem. He hasn't parked there to do the supermarket shopping, so there's obviously a mechanical problem, and we have known that sometimes the Lamborghini gearbox has been problematic. Is that another problem with the gearbox?
Well, they haven't done a lap yet. They were in the pits for a while, so whether they already knew they had a problem or whether they were waiting to come out, whatever it is, Pastorelli is out of the car, and our timing boards are saying, timing screens are saying the car will stay in its current position. Yellow flags to be removed, so it won't affect other cars out on circuit, which is good, but there is that odd drop of rain around, and everyone's going to have to get on with it. Some more green sector times coming up here, John, from Mike Hazelman's.
Yeah, I would imagine, or would expect this car to be somewhere in or more rain.
Yeah.
This is getting slightly more concerning at turns 14 and 15. Coming onto the fastest corner. This is what I was talking about in this circuit. High parts of the circuit, maybe we're likely to get more rain. Now Hazelman, he'll be aware of that, seeing it on the windscreen. It will automatically cause him to be a little bit more cautious, and that may well have a bearing on his present. Well, he's gone to 9th, he's improved fractionally, so didn't affect him, but he's going to be aware of it for the coming lap.
Yeah, impressive lap despite the little bit of rain around. Mark Basseng, who of course is team manager for that Al Enkel team, as well as driver, so he's very concerned about what's happened to the other car, not his car. Marcus Winkelhock has got their car safely in the top 10, but the other car, which is stranded down at the end of the pit lane. Meanwhile, number 40 forward of Mark Henrici's just put in a quick lap to go 11th because he was outside it a minute or two ago. And the 4 at the moment, John, who aren't likely to get into the next session of qualifying are, of course, the Lamborghini at the end of the pit lane, notably Christian Hohenadel in the Hex's Aston Martin, then Christopher Nygaard in a Ford, and Martin Matzke in another Ford.
Well, the two Fords have not really done a proper flying lap, but the Hohenadel in the Aston Martin has just done a 7:16. Clearly, they've gone out in a big problem, and the Pastorelli Lamborghini ain't going anywhere.
Well, let's see if we can get a bit more of an update on what's going on with the Nicky Pastorelli Lamborghini and talk to his team boss, Mark Basseng, winner last time out. What can he tell us?
Mark, unfortunately another bit of bad luck for Nicky and Dominic. Can you tell us what's going on with the car?
We just get the information from Nicky that he has no something in the drivetrain is again damaged, but I don't know if he leaves from here to there. It's just 50 meters. So I don't know. We have to check, and then we will see what we have to do.
Thank you.
Well, you guessed correct, John. The Achilles heel, it appears to be, of this Lamborghini.
You know, the day, Ben, I give up the microphone, I'm going to become a psychic because clearly, sorry for the pun, no, they've had problems with transmissions in the Lamborghinis in the first 2 rounds. It had to be a fair punt, didn't it? I mean, it wasn't something that I had prior knowledge of, but very disappointing with that. Schwager Pastorelli Lamborghini is an absolute out-and-out hot rod. They were quickest in practice yesterday by, well, it ended up by being just a little under a tenth of a second. Nevertheless, that's a car that has been competitive every outing so far this year.
Well, they're going to be starting from the back this time, so they've started on pole position, and
there was the rain on this, just that very, very small amount of rain. See it on the camera lens. It's now beginning to have an effect on cars coming through turn 14 and 15. This
is Clivia Piccioni you're riding with, and the other Hexus Aston Martin, but I'm sure that they're not going to be able to do much representative times. He was 11th on a 44.1. Oh, he's just done a 44.0. It's still quick.
Ironically, when you get that little bit of wetness on the track, you're aware of it. Sometimes it causes you just to be a little bit more cautious. And in being cautious, you can sometimes actually be quicker.
There's the other car of Hohenadel, which is not in the next session as yet. But if the track is still okay, he's on a reasonable lap here. He's just put in a good first sector, reasonable middle sector as well. Actually, a good middle sector, almost as quick as one of the fastest we've seen. Now, this is where we've got a touch of rain on the camera, but as we've just seen, there doesn't seem to be any diminishing grip here, and Hohenadel's got every chance of getting himself into the top group here and getting through to qualifying segment 2.
Yes, runs fractionally wide in the exit of turn 16, but doesn't really impede its performance, so expect to see a substantial improvement up to 12th place in a 44.281.
Good effort that by Hohenadel, just when he needed it. He's in the top 14, which is where you have to be. But that pushes down now Max Nielsen into the group that might not make it through.
Now, is that a lock-up? Just the smoke, a little bit of blue smoke coming from the rear of the Aston, or is this Matteo Bobby?
Yeah.
First time this year in a GT1 car, I believe.
Yeah, it is. And I
in the
think
Corvette.
it's the first time in a Corvette as well, yeah. So he's adapting to a different style of car. He drove a Maserati last year and the Ford GT. Now he's got the front-engine Corvette to cope with. He's currently 14th, which means he's in danger territory, because if he stays there and no one else improves, that's fine. But he's got a couple of cars very close to him in terms of time behind him in the remaining 4 minutes, so he needs to really try and get a quicker lap in here.
Well, the Corvette is a good handling car. It's got good straight-line performance. Matteo Bobby, 14th, 13th.
So he's got a little bit more ground, but he's still in danger. It's pushed Henrici down to 14th in the Ford GT. Pole man here last year in a Corvette, Mark Henrici, but down in 14th and in danger territory. But at the moment, the ones not looking to make it through are Max Nielsen, Martin Matzke, who I think is just crossing the line there, Christopher Nygaard and Nicky Pastorelli. Actually, no, that's Nygaard. He's one of the ones that hasn't made it through yet, Christopher Nygaard. Who is pretty busy this weekend, because I think he's out in the GT3s as well, but he's got to find a bit more pace in this car, that in the number 9 car. There's his teammate, Nygaard sharing with Vanina X, and there she is watching.
Yes, and is Vanina going to get into the car, or is it not going to make it through? And she didn't get much track time in Belgium, and when she did get track time, she got knocked off by her own teammate.
Do you put another set of tyres on? Well, Hexis, they might be just practicing their pit stop. They might not send him out. We'll wait and see in a moment. Number 9 car of Nygaard has now been pushed down to 17th. So he really needs to find some time. 146.6 is his best so far, which is a long way off. They must have had problems with that car, because it's not really representative.
Oh dear me, just massive lock-up. Probably a flat spot or two on both the front wheels, and of course loss of momentum, and in effect the loss of the lap, and he's backed out of it as you see the climb up the hill to turn 7.
Yeah, no ABS of course in these cars, as opposed to the GT3 car which he's been out in today. Maybe he's hasn't compensated.
Ben, it is no disadvantage not having ABS.
No.
Most race cars, in my experience, and most race cars in the world do not run with ABS. It has got certain advantages in certain conditions, but it isn't the panacea of braking.
No, that's right. But I suppose if you get used to standing on the brake pedal without thinking about it, if you're used to an ABS car, then you do that in one without, and I suppose you may end up in trouble. Oh, and Winkelhock's gone fastest, by the way.
Indeed.
Marcus Winkelhock in the Lamborghini, while we've been watching the Fords here, has just done a time of 1:42.832. It's now Lamborghini on top, with the Stefan Mucker Aston second, then the bunch of Nissans from Lucas Law through Bernaldi, Westbrook and Campbell Walter running 3rd to 6th. Wendlinger is in 7th, Thomas Enger 8th, Max Nielsen's done a good job, well done to him, he's up to 9th, and 10th place Christian Hohenadel. So the ones looking to be out at this stage are Matteo Bobby, Christopher Nygaard, Martin Matzke and of course Nicky Pastorelli.
And Thomas Enger surprisingly down in 9th place, behind Hohenadel in the 8th place Aston Martin. So that's a bit of a surprise. Enger were very quick initially, but back in the pit lane.
Yeah, I'm not sure he went back out, so he might be just relying on that early run.
Well, you just keep an eye on the weather again, but with just a minute or so remaining, it's too late. They've thrown their dice, they've taken their chances, they're 9th, and now they're down to 10th.
Henrici just improved, you're right, and he pushed them down to 10th. So Mark Henrici's got his Ford into 9th place, the car he shares with Bas Linders. There is the Corvette of Matteo Bobby, which is not in at the moment, unless Matteo can find some pace. But it's incredibly close in that part of the grid. I mean, if you look from 9th place, 43.908, down to 14th place, 44.082. I mean, I can't believe how close it is.
Matteo Bobby comes across start-finish line, and does he go any quicker? No, he doesn't. Stays 15th, so he's going to not follow through into qualifying 2.
No, that's right, just missing out as the clock ticks away at the top of the screen there. We're about to see checkered flag come out on this. Marcus Winkelhock has set the pace in this session so far. Of course, that doesn't put him on provisional pole or anything like that, because he's still got to go through the remaining 2 segments of qualifying. All it's done is made sure that they're very safely through. And I suppose it does throw down the gauntlet a little bit to everyone else.
Well, it's always nice, regardless whether it means anything or not, to be quickest, have your name top of the timing and scoring for one of the qualifying segments. But of course, it's the third segment that will determine who will sit on the front row of the grid, will sit on the pole position on the front row of the grid.
So we now know the 4 cars that are making no further part in qualifying today. They are the Corvette of Matteo Bobbi and Michael Rossi, the Ford of Christopher Nygaard and Vanina Ickx, another Ford of Martin Matzke and Antoine Leclerc, and the most shocking one, if you like, is the car that has been fastest in qualifying in Abu Dhabi and Zolder. Didn't start on pole in Abu Dhabi because they had a penalty, did start on pole in the qualifying race in Zolder, but this time, John, Nicky Pastorelli and Dominic Schwager will be starting right at the very back of the grid for the qualifying race.
And I mean, for these two drivers, I don't know what they must be thinking. They perform when they've got the equipment, but they're being let down by reliability issues, primarily in the transmission area. And I mean, it's just wearing for these two guys. They're just saying, what have we got to do, not just to get that pole position, but to get a race where we don't get tagged in turn 1, and we can actually use the performance that we have got and maybe get a victory.
Well, they'll be starting at the back, so perhaps they just sit on the back as everybody goes around the first lap. They'll be able to complete a racing lap. But of course, the team is actually sandwiching this entire field in this session because their other car was fastest. So what a contrast. The two Algarve Lamborghinis top and tail the list here in qualifying 1. But Marcus Winkelhock set the pace. Remember, he's in his first season of GT1, sharing with Marc Basseng, having stepped away from the DTM series. Let's go and hear from him. He's talking to Haley.
Marcus, congratulations, fastest in that. How was the Lamborghini performing for you? Because I know Nicky has had some difficulties.
Actually, I was surprised. The car was really good. The first outing I did, we changed a lot from yesterday to the qualifying. The first outing, the car was a bit difficult to drive. Then we changed something, and then it was much better. I was like 1 second quicker with the second set of tires. The car felt great. I hope that Mark can do another good time. Maybe we can do a Q1, and then I think maybe we can have a good position for the qualifying race then.
Thank you.
I tell you what's also impressive about that is that car's carrying 50 kilos of success ballast, and he still managed to go and set the fastest time there.
Well, that success ballast has a bearing, especially on a circuit such as Portimao, where you do have quite steep inclines, and of course then down the hill, more weight to slow down. So great performance from Marcus Winkelhock.
So the cars that have not made it through, the number 47 Corvette of Bobbi and Rossi, the two Ford GTs of the Belgian racing team, I'm afraid, Nygaard and Ickx, Matzke and Leclerc, and the other one that's not listed on there simply because it didn't do a time, so it doesn't even get listed there, is the Pastorelli Schwager Algarve Lamborghini Murcielago. So start of Q2, we're hearing might be delayed briefly. Let's just check those times from Q1 then. It was the Lamborghini on top with a 1:42.8, just a tenth of a second faster than Stefan Mucker's Aston. But then look at the Nissans. JR Motorsports and Sumo Power, the 4 Nissans with their super driver lineup, just separated by, what, a tenth of a second, all 4 cars.
A tenth and a bit, and I mean, couldn't get closer.
Fantastic, really impressive stuff from the Nissans there. Behind them and outside the top 10 then, the other Corvette, the Mark VDS Ford, the number 41 car of Yann Claret and Max Martin. Claret getting used to the car, the 47 Corvette, though, as we know, not making it through, and the 2 Belgian Fords not making it through either. Weren't quite in the top 14. Green light at the end of the pit lane as the session gets underway. So we're down to a 15-minute session, and this could be very, very tough indeed. To get through to Q3, you've got to manage your tyres. That's the Dominic Schwager, Nicky Pastorelli car being brought back to the paddock. But there we go, the 2 Aston Martins are out straight away. So are the Swiss Racing Lamborghinis, then a couple of the Nissans heading out, one of the Sumo cars and one of the JR Motorsport machines as well. Mark VDS Ford, and the Zonta Bernoldi, the Brazilian pairing inside the Nissan. It's Zonta at the wheel, by the way, now. Bernoldi did the first part, so it's now Zonta who takes over.
So we'll see whether the strategy of some of the teams, by putting, in their opinion, the quicker of their 2 driver lineups. I mean, for example, the Ford 41 of Clary and Maxime Martin not through, and it didn't work for them. I don't know why they chose to do it with a new driver, put him in first, but these are the judgments teams make. It will give them an advantage in terms of tyre availability, new tyre availability for both the qualifying race later today and the championship race on Sunday. But I just wonder the wisdom of putting your, in effect, rookie driver in for the first run when I don't know.
I think they did. I think they did make it through, didn't they? I think they are out in this session.
Just got through. Okay.
I think they are. Yes.
Okay, well, I mean, it was a very
but it was a close
squeaky.
one thing.
Looking down at the screen.
No, it just squeaked in.
Just squeaked in. But now Maxime Martin, who we know has got, he's got form in a Ford, put it that way.
Form in a Ford, yeah, he has.
And he's not an Essex boy either.
No, that's right. He's a Belgian lad who's going to be very rapid. He's been out on track today as well, because actually he's been switching cars. He was out in the GT3 session.
Yeah, and of course Ford used to be built in Essex.
Indeed. So, made in Dagenham. Haven't seen it yet, want to watch it. Up the hill, and the Aston Martin of this is the number 7 car of Muller now at the wheel. So Alex Muller is taking over from Thomas Enger, but as we saw the Astons and heard from Stefan Mucker, they seem pretty happy with the performance of their cars. So onto a flying lap goes Alex Muller. If he does make it through, of course, we swap drivers again, and it'll be back to Thomas Enger for Q3.
And it's the dazzler in the second of the Aston Martins, Darren Turner. So both Astons out on it hard at the earliest opportunity. 5 minutes less in this session than in the preceding session. Runs a little bit wide on the exit, come into turn 4, compromises then to climb up. And again, look at the way the Aston was squirming, and that was just because the exit out of turn 4 wasn't ideal. Darren Turner pushing very hard behind in the second of the young Aston, young Aston drivers down into turn 6. Still looking to see any drivers wide and using that sort of slightly narrower entry, in other words, using the middle of the track where the track surface is a lot less bumpy than it is on the racing line.
Now, Darren Turner's actually got a slightly faster lap going here than the car ahead of him, and indeed Westbrook also in a Nissan's going well. Let's go on board here with Darren Turner, John, as we ride through the latter third of the lap. Yeah,
through turn 9, up the hill, turn 10, 11.
Whoa.
The car does get light. You've got to slow the car down, and the exit through turn 12 is very, very easy to overrun, run wide on up the hill into turn 14.
Changing gear through some of these flat-out corners here. They're really working on the steering wheel. It's fabulous to watch on board. No gear changing on that little short section. Just missing the shot there, just a fraction as he comes down into the last corner. But Richard Westbrook is also on... is it Westbrook or Dumbreck? Sorry, it's Dumbreck. My mistake. That was a quick change on the screen, but it's Dumbreck, who is very fast here, who is also putting in a rapid pace. Right, Darren Turner is fastest at the moment on a 1:42.2 rather. Muller wasn't so quick, a 1:44.7. Let's see what Dumbreck does, and he goes second. So it's 2 British drivers up at the top at the moment. One in Aston Martin in Darren Turner, and second fastest Peter Dumbreck on a time just a 1/10 of a second slower.
David Brabham in third place in the second. So I've noticed Alex Muller dropping out of it. Look at Nicky Katzberg in the Corvette getting it all wrong in turn 4.
Yep.
Young driver just makes an error, under brakes, runs round the perimeter of the corner. Laps compromised.
Michael Krum has just gone faster than anybody in his Nissan. He's just on 1:41.959. You're riding on board with him briefly. Another very impressive lap from the German driver, and that pairing of Lucas Law and Michael Krum looking mighty strong here this weekend.
And Michael Krum did tell us yesterday that without question he is the quickest Nissan driver.
He did. He qualified that a little bit. He's the quickest.
Oh, and he runs very wide out of turn 5. Just a little bit too enthusiastic as he climbed up the hill and had to turn left.
He did qualify as he's the quickest on his outlap. They take.
This is his first outlap.
Yeah, but he meant in all the races so far, the first sector of an outlap. He has been so far, apparently, according to him. We haven't checked it with the other guys
I'll give
yet.
you a spade to dig yourself out of that one.
Well, we'll work it out. We'll talk to the others as well. But anyway, it's good internal competition, good internal rivalry between those top drivers at Nissan. But for the moment, it's Krum on top, and he's fastest outright on a 1:41.9, 3/10 quicker than the Aston of Darren Turner. Dumbreck's Nissan is next, then Brabham, and as you said, Max Martin would be fast in the Ford. John, he is. He's gone 5th, with Basseng 6th in the Lamborghini, and then Dusseldorf 7th in the Hexus Aston Martin at the moment.
Well, we know that the pole time last year by Mark Enrici, 1:42.3, well, that's been eclipsed. They have yet to go quicker than we saw the Pastorelli Schwager Lamborghini when it was running on track, did a 1:41.7. So there is more potential. Just depends whether it's going to happen in the second of the qualifying segment, or we're going to have to wait until the third to see the true performance of a GT1 car this year at Portimao.
Katzberg trying to make up for that spin earlier on, so he's still setting his sort of first representative lapped here. He's currently only 12th at the moment. Don't go too wide there, otherwise you won't get back across. He does just about make it.
Yeah, he threaded the needle on the exit coming down out of turn 12. Very easy to run wide too early in the exit. Keep repeating that, but it is something you will see frequently. Now into turn 14 and 15. 15 is the right-hand route, falls away from you, inclined to induce understeer. Here is turn 14, it's the slightly uphill, funny camber, and then downhill, falls away from you into turn 15, and continues. It's almost like a two-part corner. Then you have a short, straight, then you had to take a deep breath, hang on, and if you can go flat out, you're braver than 90% of the drivers here.
Might be an improvement, not enough to challenge the pole time here, but Max Martin's got some green sector times. Let's see if it pops him up at all. No, he stays 5th. It's a slight improvement in time, but he can't quite get on terms with the Nissans that are up ahead of him currently. It's Michael Crum fastest in the Nissan with under 8 minutes to go, and still everybody else charging. Bas Linders here in the other Mark VDS car, currently 8th quickest. Championship leader Mark Basseng is 9th. Nicky Katzberg in that Corvette went to 10th on that last lap. Düsseldorf has been pushed down to 11th. Muller is only 12th.
Linders look good coming through turn 16, had the car hooked up on the curb on the inside. Does he go any quicker? No, he stays in 8th place.
Stays 8th. I think the lap was a bit quicker, but again, no improvement in position. So Bas Linders only just there at the moment. Remember, only the top 8 are going to make it through, and at the moment, the championship leaders, Mark Basseng and Wiggelhoff, are down in 9th.
But the top 4 are back in the pits. They're going to sit there, wait and see. We've got 7 minutes remaining. They may be forced to go out and do another run. I suspect Michael Crum will say, I'm in good shape, I'm quickest currently, and that's what I'm going to stay, or where I hope to stay.
Yeah, whereas Mark Basseng will be forced to go back out in the car that Winkelhock set the outright pace in the first part of qualifying. Meanwhile, here's the number 3 Hexis Aston Martin of Piccioni and Düsseldorf. Now remember, this car right up there in the championship, having won at Abu Dhabi. They sit 2nd in the points at the moment, but they lost out on getting into the final sector in Belgium, so they will be very fired up not to make that same mistake again. But it's not going to be easy. They're down in 11th. It's the 21-year-old Düsseldorf driving.
Yeah, and he let the car run too wide, and he's going into the pit lane. I don't know whether that was the cause or the consequence, but the car ran quite wide early on the exit of turn 16. Ordinarily, that's a no-no.
Yep, so Düsseldorf brings it back into the pit lane. I wonder if they're going to get another run or another set of tyres. Do they have more tyres there to use? Steph Düsseldorf, who was so impressive at that first round at Abu Dhabi, but as I say, they qualified 13th last time out, and at the moment they're sitting 11th, so not in that position to progress. There is the championship leading car then, the number 38 Lamborghini, which has to find some time here in the remaining 6 minutes if they're going to get into the final group of qualifying, and it's team manager and driver Mark Basseng at the wheel at the moment.
His time was literally a 150 or so, it didn't count. This does count, this lap.
Okay, let's ride with him, John. Heading down towards the first corner.
Yeah, there's you dip, then you're on the brakes, very quickly approaches turn 1, down 3 gears, 2 gears in this case. Then turn 1, you ignore turn 2, and then straight into turn 3, short straight, actually very short indeed, down again 2 gears into turn 4. Get the car in, a little bit wide of the apex, then back across from right to left. Have to breathe the throttle, the back of the car, unstable for the boss of this team, and he will not be entirely happy with this lap. Downhill, stays on the right hand side, that's still a bumpy side of the racetrack. Again, understeer mid-corner, pushes the car wide over the curb, onto the rumble strip, onto the AstroTurf. This lap, it'll be an improvement in terms of time, but nowhere near the potential of this car. We saw that with Markus Winkelhoff.
Great lap to ride with, though, because he's really pushing the car here. Oh, look at the oversteer. He has to correct out of 9. Listen, is he flat here through 10? I think he will be. Yeah, that's flat chat.
Yeah, but if he wasn't flat there, then he would have no grip whatsoever. Oh. But again, under brakes, again into big trouble into turns 11 and 12. And this lap has been, frankly, a lap that he would wish that we weren't watching on board, because it is a scrappy lap.
It's scrappy, but it just shows you how hard he's trying. Tucks it into the apex.
And the understeer, look at the understeer, then fights the oversteer. Understeer always promotes oversteer.
Into the last section of the track now, still not quite as tight in there as he would have liked.
I mean, he should be going straight into the pit lane. It's a waste of track time being out, and he is.
Feathering.
He's going into the pit lane.
I reckon he'll stay on, you know. I reckon he'll finish the lap. Let's see what the time is. Is it enough to get him into the top 8? Cross the line goes Marc Basseng, and no, he stays down in 11th. It was a 1:43.9, and he needed to get a 1:43.4 minimum.
But look at the handling of the car. It's almost a joke. I mean, even here in the commentary, watch, this is the situation up into turn 11. Car all over the place, almost runs wide, runs the curb. That's not something you would normally expect to see. Then completely out of position into turn 12, has to compensate. You know, he's the team manager, team whatever, as well as one of the drivers. There was a clear case of saying, cut your losses, get into the pits, do something with the car, even throw a set of tyres at it, because it can't be any worse than you've just seen it.
I tell you what's also interesting at the moment, Alex Muller and the Aston Martin is nowhere near getting through. He's down in 14th place. I reckon we might see a last couple of runs here from people who are going to be very keen to make it, but at the moment down in 14th is Alex Muller. So just to remind you, it's Michael Krum in the top spot at the moment in the Nissan, then the Aston of Darren Turner, followed by 2 more Nissans, those of Dunbreck and Brabham. Then we've got the Ford of Max Martin, the Lamborghini of Peter Cox, the car he shares with Wendlinger. Then the other Nissan of Zonta is currently safe in 7th, but 8th is Bas Linders on the bubble. And then we've got Piccini in the Hexis Aston, not through at the moment, nor is Katzberg in the Corvette, nor is Basseng, as we've seen. He's pulled off. Marc Basseng is not going to make it through into the final 8 here, and for the car that was fastest in the second qualifying segment, that is bitterly disappointing.
He pulls off coming through turn 10 up the hill, and now we know that the sister car to this had a transmission problem. Is this yet another transmission problem for the Al Inkel Lamborghini team? I mean, disappointment. And in fact, I don't know why Marc Basseng did not go into the pits. Obviously now it's all over. Nevertheless, to me there's a strange call from the driver.
Dusseldorf is on a better lap here, John, but he needs it because he's down in 13th place. To get into the top 8, he needs to find nearly a second. So, has he found enough? He's got personal best first and second sector, and as he goes across, he's gone to 6th. Oh, the youngster performing brilliantly again.
And he struggled coming through turn 16. You could see or hear that he was having to breathe the throttle, he was having to work the front of the car to try and check it, but he's done a good job. Got that car through presently with just over a minute remaining in this session into the top 6.
But Muller here has failed. He's just gone across the line and improved his time, but he's gone to 9th. That is not enough. And Alex Muller with Thomas Enger in the young driver Aston has been eclipsed by the 21-year-old Stef Dusseldorf in his Aston. That's impressive by Dusseldorf.
That was a good run. I mean, Dusseldorf took it by the scruff of the neck and just drove through the problems. Particularly, we just picked it up at the end of the lap through the final turn, but he did enough on the lap to get that lap time. And now we wait to see whether this is going to be a reply from Alex Muller in the car that he shares along with Thomas Enger in the blue corner.
And interestingly, the other Hexis Aston hasn't made it through either. Andrea Piccini, the experienced Andrea Piccini, has also failed to get through. So it is of the Aston Martins, Darren Turner's got the number 8 car through, and the youngster Stef Dusseldorf, he has been pushed down to 7th, mind you, just now, because we've seen a slight improvement from Zonta, but nonetheless at the moment Dusseldorf, fresh out of single-seaters and impressing us with his performances in GT1, is in 7th and into the final part of qualifying. The most danger man at the moment is Peter Cox. He is currently 8th. But can anybody improve? Now, Alex Muller's still trying to, and he's got a couple of good first sectors here.
Yeah, he's got personal bests. Couldn't do better than that, other than getting purples, but he has improved in those first 2 sectors. He needs to find, you're talking about maybe, well, 2/10 or so of a second.
Yep,
sounds a little amount of time, but to a driver, that's like maybe 2 seconds. I mean, runs it out to the very edge, the tail wags as it comes onto the plateau. That is the start-finish straight, and he stays 9th.
Oh, he does stay 9th. That lap almost identical to his previous lap, only slower by 300ths, but as you say, he needed to find 3/10. But up the top, it's Michael Krum, and I am not sure if they might not be putting in another very fast lap here. Look at all the purple sector times. It's going to be even quicker from Michael Krum already on provisional pole. Well, no, actually, that lap of 42.0, his final sector wasn't quite as fast, but that Nissan is flying here and has ended that session fastest. But the big drama is about the championship leader, Marc Basseng. Let's see if we get the story from the pits.
Henry, can you update us on car number 38?
Yeah. Obviously, we have another gearbox problem, just another gearbox problem, like on 37. So we have to get the car in and see what it is. But it seems it's maybe the same faulty part with the same gearboxes.
I wish you luck. Thank you.
Right, that's disappointing, but at least they've got something perhaps that they can nail and get sorted.
Here's a question. The Al-Enkel cars have been plagued by transmission, gearbox, whatever you care to call it. Has the Swiss racing team had the same problems?
Good question, yeah.
Because they're identical units,
yeah.
Gearboxes to my knowledge, and where's the problem? If it's not a mechanical problem, is it a finger problem?
Well, it's interesting, but let's take a look at the cars that have not made it through into the final part of qualifying. Alex Muller nearly did at the end there, but just missed out. Bas Linders and Mark Canarici have not made it through, nor has the third place car in the championship of Hohenadel and Pacini. The Corvette of Haysmans and Katzberg not through, I'm afraid. They'll start 12th. 13th will be the championship leaders, Winkelhock and Basseng, and also not making it through, the Nilsson Janak Lamborghini. So a few favourites, as we thought, have not made it through into the top 8, but we still have an enjoyable battle in prospect here to see who gets into the pole position. So Luhr and Krum were fastest in their Nissan. The Aston of Turner was second fastest. Then two more Nissans, Dunbreck getting the car through safely, also through David Brabham, and very close times there. Max Martin got the Ford through. Jan Claire may struggle in the final part though to keep it near the front. Zonta through, so did Dusseldorp. A fine effort from the youngster. Peter Cox was the last one to make it into the top 8, and then the cars that we've already seen that failed to make it through, and that's where they'll start in the race this afternoon, obviously, because that's how they've qualified, and those are the positions they'll keep for the first race of the weekend.
But so far, going into Q3, feeling reasonably confident, but for the next 10 minutes we'll see what's going to happen, eh?
Thank you.
Here we go then, session gets underway, and Aston Martin first out with Stefan Mucker, and now the first of the Nissans. That is the Jamie Campbell-Walter car. He had a little spin, didn't he, in the first run he did earlier today, but he came back strongly with his second run, got it into Q2 when of course Brabham completed the task, and now here he is in Q3.
And not quite the rush that we saw in Q2 out of the pit lane. I imagine that what we're going to look at is everybody doing one run on the freshest, if not a new set of tyres, and save whatever else you got for the race this afternoon, the qualifying race, and probably more critically because of the points in the championship race being a bigger bag of points, trying to save something for Sunday. Here we see two more of the Brazilian Nissan makes its way down the pit lane, and the second of the JR Motorsport cars following likewise.
Yeah, we saw Wendlinger on track. By the way, whatever happens in this session, it'll be Wendlinger and Cox's best qualifying performance of the year, because it's the first time they've made the top 8 this season. So Wendlinger and Cox already making those improvements that they were hoping to do. Now there's Lucas Luhr with Michael Krum. Those two guys have been looking very fast all weekend, very composed and confident as well.
Yeah, Richard Westbrook, his sister JRM car, just nipping out a second or two ahead, so pretty much everybody, I think, except I don't think they put uni cars on track yet, and also the Claire Martin Ford. Yeah. So 6 cars on track, all the Nissans out, the Aston goes on to a flying lap.
So here comes Stefan Mucker then across the line to start his flying lap. Let's watch him as he heads down towards turn 1, this dipping approach into the right hand. You can just hear the bottom of the car just hitting the ground a little bit through the bumps and on the brakes, and now he's got to get it all slowed down and look at getting good traction off the corner.
That's about as good as it gets for an Aston Martin. Out of turn 4, up the hill, back of the car planted to the racetrack, not running wide out over that AstroTurf, which, as you can see already, being pretty chewed up by the rear wheels and tyres of these GT1 cars in particular.
So the purple sector time's coming up because everything's being cleared away from the time so far. We're establishing a new benchmark in this final part, so we'll see what time he does set. He'll obviously go quickest because he's the first to set a time, as long as he completes this lap, of course. Out of turn 9 he comes, climbing up the hill, just has a view of sky as he comes out of that one.
Yeah, the car looks very comfortable. We don't know whether it's particularly quick. Again, using the racetrack much more to the centre of the road as he approaches up through turns 10, 11. Again, good entrance and exit out of turn 12. You can make up a small amount of time, but you can use a lot of time if you do get it wrong in that part of the racetrack.
So the 29-year-old German, an LMS champion in 2009 with Thomas Enger, driving the Lola Aston Martin. He was a single-seater driver in his early years, was a Formula BMW champion in Germany back in 1998 before he switched to German F3. But he's been a sports car man and tin top man for many years. He did 5 years of the DTM, the German Touring Car Championship. And in recent years, of course, he's very much concentrated on GT.
Well, that can teach you a lot of bad habits, that's for sure. 142.726. Good opening effort from the German in the Aston Martin. We wait to see the first of the Nissans coming across. And
Jamie Campbell,
what does he do?
second.
143.06.
Yeah, so he is 3/10 slower than the Aston Martin just went. But let's wait and see what anybody else is doing, because we're waiting to see.
Well, Bernoldi has got fastest sector in sector 1, but he's not in fastest sector in sector 2.
So Bernoldi is particularly on a good lap at the moment, the Brazilian. Let's see what Wendlinger is doing meanwhile. He's just gone third quickest, but it's a 44.3. That's not really competitive, and as we thought, Wendlinger is not likely to be in the battle for pole.
It's the Bernoldi Nissan that I think we want to keep an eye on. Car 20, that's the one that's done fastest sectors 1 and 2, and we're waiting for it to complete its first flying lap. There it is, trundles out of turn 15 into 16. So Enrique Bernoldi.
Car sounding wonderful.
And the rumble of that V8.
It's great stuff. Let's see, is it enough to go fastest? Bernoldi, yes, goes fastest on a 42.5, 2/10 quicker than Stefan Mucker in the Aston Martin. It's Nissan, Aston, Nissan, Lamborghini at the moment, but we've still got several to set the pace. And Westbrook's just gone faster. Westbrook's done a 142.452. Nissan 1 and 2 now. And Richard Westbrook, teammate to Peter Dunbreck, has taken top spot. But what are the others going to do? Are they going to be able to come back at him on the next lap?
Well, where's the 141.7 that we saw yesterday from the Lamborghini, but we saw a 141.8 from the Krum Lucas Luhr car. Nowhere near it.
So it's Westbrook on top with Dunbreck, then Bernoldi with this man Ricardo Zonta watching. They're currently second. Nissan's looking at the front row if it stays this way.
Westbrook fastest in the first sector on this lap. So current fastest of all looks to improve. Now it's been eclipsed by Lucas Luhr, teammate in the second of the Nissans, or the third or the fourth, wherever you.
It's a wonderful battle between these Nissan drivers at the moment. Each one of them trying to become top dog here as Carl Wendlinger in the Lamborghini. He's, I don't think, going to be a challenger for that pole. Let's just see what this next lap is. He's done a 43.7, so again it stays in sixth.
Do you know what? I don't think we're going to see more than 6 cars on the track. I think the Piccioni Aston Martin and the Clary 4 GT, they've decided we're not going to get involved in this race. We're going to save tyres. We're going to take our 4th row of the grid starting position and take our chances. We can't compete with the might of Nissan or the 2 Aston Martins. Why bother playing?
No, that's very, I think you're right there, John. We've seen no sign of them coming out on circuit, and that would be a sensible strategy. You're riding on board with Lucas Luhr. He's got a fastest purple sector in the first sector. He's done a personal best in the mid sector. Is this going to be enough to challenge Richard Westbrook? You ride with him through the final turn that brings him onto the start-finish straight. 42.4 is the target to beat. Crossy, no, it's not enough. He stays third, goes third. A 42.5, it's so close. Just over a tenth of a second slower than Westbrook, with Bernoldi between them, and a really, really stunning few laps there from these guys.
And you got an anxious glimpse of Michael Krum, the teammate of Lucas Luhr, looking at timing and scoring, hoping and praying that Lucas Luhr could get that car onto the front row of the grid. Didn't happen that lap.
Nissan's 1, 2, 3. So can Jamie Campbell-Walter squeeze the Aston off the second row? I'm not sure that's going to happen, because he may well have used the best of his tyres now. I think everybody's done a decent run. It may be that the Aston of Stefan Mucker is just going to interrupt the Nissan party slightly, but not by much, because Nissan are 1, 2 and 3.
Now, if they stay 1, 2 and 3, have a bet with me, Ben. How many of those front 3 Nissans are going to make it through turn 1s, 2, or 1 and 3 and 4?
Well, bearing in mind, now the number 3 Aston has come out to play. Now, this is interesting. So, Clivio Piccioni, we wondered if they might just sit it out. Will he actually put in a flying lap, or is he just going to do a sort of sighting lap here?
He may just simply go out and do an out lap, nail it on whatever the best set of the tyres they have. And it may be a new set of tyres. I really thought that they decided not to, simply because they didn't want to get involved in this game of pursuing particularly the 4 Nissans and the Astons.
Jan Claret, meanwhile, is not coming out, and with the clock ticking away, it doesn't look likely. Although they're standing around as though they might send him on his way, but I don't think there's any problems.
I think, frankly, what's the point?
Yeah, no, they're just looking after their tyres, and it's sensible. As we've said, keep your tyres fresh for those qualifying and championship races. Why not? As I said earlier, the 2 championship race wins we've had this year were from cars that qualified outside the top 10. So you've got to think about your race strategy. If you just throw everything at qualifying, you could easily be in bad shape. Look at the top speeds there, John, and Nissan are the top 4 places on top speeds. That shows you how strong they are.
Oh, it's a very, very strong car. Now, Clivio Piccioni's coming up to start a flying lap, but is he actually going to go? I think he is going to start the lap. He had a car, one of the Nissans, ahead of him. He didn't want to overrun that car. It's going into the pit lane. So just under a minute remaining. Piccioni will get 1 flying lap, which may or may not improve his 7th position.
Yeah, and interestingly, the Ford went out there, John. He's not even going to get a flying lap in terms of when he went out, so I guess it's just to make sure the car is running okay.
I think I'll stick with being a commentator these days.
On board with Piccioni. So, is he really going to go for it here?
Oh, and a big lock-up under brakes, and again, that was because of the Martino, the Clary 4 GT distraction, I would say, was the cause of that little moment, and, well, I just don't know whether Piccioni has got enough pace in the Aston, having sat out the best part of 7 minutes of this session.
Look at the first split. He's 6/10 down on a Nissan at the first split, so there's really no point, is there?
Virtually. I mean, they would have been no worse off sitting in the garage watching everybody else beating you-know-what out of each other and take your 7th place starting grid.
I suppose he might get 6th from Wendlinger. I suppose that's possible.
It's a possibility, but frankly, are you any better off?
I know, exactly. You've used a set of tyres, and, well, it's up to them to decide that one. It might be worth the 1 spot on the grid. Let's just continue this ride with Piccioni. Is he still pushing hard? Well, he's 2nd down on the top Nissan at the 2nd checkpoint, but that would still put him in on target with Wendlinger's Lamborghini.
Yeah, I mean, I just frankly don't understand the point, unless they've done something with the car that they had to be fair enough. Now remember that also, just look at that Stefan Mucke, Darren Turner car, that's got a 5-place drop for an engine change from yesterday.
Yeah.
So in fact
Nissans are going to be top 4. That's a good point.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about that one, and then the old brain clicked in, and they've changed an engine on Friday, so they'll take a 5-place drop. So
he stays 7th, so he didn't beat the time of Carl Wendlinger, so really didn't achieve anything there, but nonetheless he has done a lap, and they've checked the car is running okay. So that qualifying segment has now come to a conclusion, and it will be a Nissan 1, 2, 3, 4 on the grid, courtesy of that penalty you just talked about, John. But it's Richard Westbrook and Peter Dumbreck, 2 stars of this race last year, because Dumbreck and Michael Krum won the qualifying race, but Westbrook in a Ford was absolutely brilliant, coming from the back of the qualifying race, fought his way through in that one, fought his way through in the championship race, and emerged 2nd. So it's a very, very impressive driver lineup, and in the number 22 car they have taken pole position with the Bernaldi Zonta Nissan 2nd fastest, the Lucas Luhr Michael Krum JR Motorsports Nissan 3rd, and 4th fastest in the times the Stefan Mucke Darren Turner Aston. But with that 5-place penalty for changing an engine after the pre-qualifying session yesterday, it means they'll actually start in 9th place, and that will promote the other Sumo Power Nissan of Jamie Campbell-Walter and David Brabham. That will promote them into 4th on the starting grid itself. The Lamborghini of Wendlinger and Cox will start from 5th place, in fact, thanks to that drop. The 6th place car will be the Hexus Aston that we've just seen out there, and the 7th place car on the grid, having qualified with the 8th fastest time, is the Mark VDS Ford of Jan Claret and Max Martin. Nissan definitely ruling the roost here at Portimao.